that your lights have been misbehaving. And I sympathize with those of you in parts of the Ashanti region and other parts of the country who complain of the epileptic situation of electricity supply. Dumsor Scare. As you are aware, Sonon Asogli, one of the IPPs, says it has been compelled to shut down since October 8. It is owed money that the ECG is supposed to pay it, excluding fuel receivables, an amount of $259 million as at the end of September 2024. We are told that about 3 of these IPPs, independent power, producers, plants that help us to get reliable electricity supply, are likely to shut down from next week. What is causing the Dumsor Scare? And the Black Stars. What's happening? The AFCON fiasco. How bad can it get? We'll be right back to deal with the Vex matters. Welcome back to Newsfile. This is your most authoritative news analysis platform, and here on Newsfile, we put Ghana first. And here is Samson's take. I'm asking a very simple question: why I must trust the state or trust the police on the matter of security going into December 7. So there was a security meeting where all the parties attended. And I have asked those who attended that meeting at the IGP's invitation whether they asked the IGP a simple question for an update on the 8 people that were killed in the last election. They don't matter. They are no humans. They come from poor homes. We cannot be bothered. It's time for another election. We go into it as if nothing happened. 8 Ghanaian lives were killed, were lost. They were aimed and shot and killed. So December 7, go vote and leave. Yes, take your security personal. Leave unless you have a job, especially during the collation. Unless you have an assignment there, do not go to those centers if you have no votes. The 8 people who were shot and killed in 2020 and the several others who were injured included onlookers, minors. Some of those who escaped death were maimed. Rendered disabled and incapable of working for life. In Techiman South, the Attorney General was in court in a civil suit by some of them, insisting that security officers only fired warning shots to disperse a crowd that threw stones at them. Well, the tear gas was not enough crowd control measure for them. So they shot directly into the crowd, even when people turned to flee. Even when people turned to flee, they shot. That's how to fire warning shots. Election Security Task Force of police and soldiers, professionals trained in crowd control, must know when to open lethal fire. How about those killed at centers where there was no crowd trying to break a barricade? You have heard an army commander threatening to beat the hell out of people when invited by police to intervene in a situation, right? Out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. In Ghana, NDC MPP politics do not only break homes and friendships, they cause professionals, people you have revered, chiefs, pastors, professors, to sound and act like brainless dummies. I mean, fools. Yes, even the devil is shocked at the things that they defend because of politics. Even galamsey, that threatens their very lives. They will justify and rationalize wrongs and outright criminal conduct. An important institution like the FDA, the Food and Drugs Authority, is forced to tell a cock and bull story when exposed for approving for consumption by students food that ought to be destroyed. Check the spirited defense that refuses to admit the bare facts and ignores the danger, the damage done to the FDA in the process. A citizen blows the whistle, bringing police in over 15,000 of the 20,000 or so bags of rice that should not be consumed after December 2023. The rice was being secretly rebagged and rebranded without expiry dates in violation of law. You find out that wrong is being done. You slap a fine on the company involved. The national buffer stock is complicit but not sanctioned. You are now saying you extended the best before date after whatever tests. None of those who supervise this is losing their job, and we are okay with it. Let me tell you this. Journalists alerted this same FDA to a company selling expired food products. They got police to make arrests. That's the FDA. They fined the company and assured the journalists of prosecution. But they kept lying to the journalists that they will prosecute when they did not intend to do so. The wealthy company rushed to court to prevent publication. A judge, motivated by whatever of the facts, issues an injunction against the publication. The FDA suddenly grows cold feet, even in simply supplying information to assist the media house to defend the suits. An RTI request is made, and they still try to conceal the facts in their answer to that RTI request. Anyway, back to the politics that destroys. You see Alote Jacobs, right? And Kokua Idoho. They no longer see anything good about the NDC. The same NDC that was all righteous in their eyes only a few years ago when they benefited from the party in government. Nana Ohininto, Yabuabenga Samwa, they talk about misgovernance and endemic corruption only after they quit the NPP. Of course, you will appreciate Kweku Kwatin's struggle in telling the truth about the economy being run like a criminal Ponzi scheme. Yes, his own words. He knows too well that those billions in tax waivers in the name of supporting 1D, 1F companies will not build any factories. He has a conscience that tells him that God he prays to will punish people who allowed theft of such huge sums of money from a country begging at the IMF, a country whose pensioners have lost their life savings, and officially almost 1 million more of its citizens have been pushed into poverty. Yes, he lost the position that empowered him to block the thievery. But how many of you will go to his rescue if the elephant worked harder to chase him into the bush, like it did to PC Apia Ofori? You remember him? MP Andy Apia Kubi told us about a businessman who brought money, cash, to Parliament to bribe them not to pass a vote of censure on Ken Ofori-Atta. He later refused to cooperate and make disclosures to the OSP for investigations for possible prosecution. He will be voted back into Parliament on December 7 and may even become a minister again in this republic. That's what I'm talking about. You hear the gaslighting about how 4 cedis to $1 is not any better than 17 cedis to $1, right? When a petition was filed at the Shraj, the IGP wrote to tell Shraj that those persons who are responsible, the military and police officers, who are responsible for the 8 killings and the mayhem that was visited on innocent citizens in the 2020 elections, were being prosecuted. That's what the IGP said. You go for a meeting with the IGP about election security for December 7, and nobody asked the IGP one question about how far they have gone with the prosecutions. You are sick. And that's my take.
Really, I would like to apologize for the results. Very much, very much. If I have a wish, one wish, I know for a lot of people, even the World Cup is bigger than the AFCON. For me, personally, the AFCON is bigger. For me, personally, it's just a personal thing. I know for a lot of people, it's more important to go to the World Cup, and I did it once. And I'm just saying, after I did it for the World Cup, before even I came, a lot of people were against me. I can show you 100 things, my friends, but nobody apologized afterwards. Not some few, not a lot. This is the first one. But I'm ready to apologize very, very much. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry that we didn't do well and we didn't qualify. I'm very sorry. This one, 100%. I really have to apologize because I know how much it means for every Ghanaian to play in this tournament. I know it. Don't get me wrong. Please. You have to ask the GFA this question. Why? I mean, it's the same, that's why the background was important. It's the same, if we turn things around, tables around. For me, because the questions were, No, I'm just saying, you're a good journalist in my eyes. Just don't take it personally. If I would say you're bad, then I would ask you, would you resign? You would do it. It's like, I mean, that's why I said you are good. I didn't want you to take it personally. No. So I'm saying you're good because for me the questions you ask are good. But then if you think like you said, then you're a good journalist, and I ask you, you resign, would you resign? You say no. No, because you ask me why, and these questions are not my responsibility. If I should continue or not, for me, I'm not, like I said before, and if the next person will ask, we can use the same answer. I'm not a person. I never give up on nothing. This is the way I came up. If you want to be, let's say, a footballer, a professional, you never give up. You fight. You work hard. You work. If you fall down 10 times. You stand up the 11th time and then you do it. This is how I made it. It's not like I came up and then I made it as a professional. And the same as a coach. As a coach, it's not like, somebody will just give you anything for granted, a badge. You have to work hard, you have to have teams, You have to work with them. You have to surely get results, which were not there, 100%. It's my responsibility, no one else. And surely you will fall down as a coach. I can give you a lot of examples. And I think you were also talking about somebody referred to Klaus. I was playing under him. We went down with minds. From first to second, and then we came up again. It's not like.
So that's the Black Stars coach, Otuado. His second coming into the team. The first time, it wasn't a difficult thing for him to decide that he has seen enough. Now he says he's not the man to resign. He will not do it. But are those calling for his resignation justified? For the first time in 20 good years, Ghana will not be represented at the Africa Cup of Nations. When the AFCON was made up of 8 teams, Ghana consistently represented. Same when it was expanded to 12 and then to 16, and now with 24 teams, more than half of the entire African continent will be playing at next year's tournament in Morocco. Ghana will not be part of the top half of footballing nations on the continent. From a team that consistently made the list, 4 of each of the AFCON editions from 2008 all the way to 2017, the recent development is definitely an all-time low. The last 3 major competitions Ghana has been to, they finished bottom of the table at AFCON 2021, World Cup 2022, and AFCON 2023, which was played only in January this year. So, that's the one thing that consistently provided relief for Ghanaians, which is eluding them. As you hear the commentators in Chi, they say, Ghana away. Yeah, that's how blunt they can put it. My guest in the studio to help us find out, even if we were and will not have electricity to watch, how we're going to watch it. Henry Asante Chum is Communications Director of the Ghana Football Association. Ibrahim Sani Dara is former Communications Manager, the Ghana Football Association. Sadiq Adams is sports journalist, and Edward Abambire Bawa is MP Bongo and co-spokesperson on Energy National Democratic Congress. You know that he's here particularly because we're going to deal with the power situation. Afeo Makin has also issued a request asking them to come back to the House. Will that happen? We'll find out about all that. But gentlemen, thank you very much for making time to join us.
It's always a pleasure, Samson.
Great. So I think I'd like to hear from Sadiq first. Sometimes he can be very controversial. So I mean, how do you even start? That this is Ghana, this is the Black Stars.
Thank you very much again, Samson. Like you mentioned, how do you start? It's difficult accepting the position that we are today. Very difficult, especially for some of us who are passionate lovers of soccer and Ghana's national team before becoming professional journalists. So it's difficult to separate what it used to be and what the situation is now. And also especially at a point where the various sectors of our football, the Black Stars used to be the facade, the last remaining objects that truly showed that the Ghana football was in a good light, has finally gone down. So this is a systemic failure. The other departments have been collapsing over the years. It didn't start today. And the Black Stars used to be what held everything together. So there was an extreme injection of funds, even against good advice. There was an extreme focus on the Black Stars. There was an incessant defense of what people wanted to do with the Black Stars because all the other foundation or pillars had broken, with the exception of the Black Stars. So whatever situation, regardless of the amounts, we need to put the Black Stars in a state that will appear, or for people to assume things are well with Ghana football. But then when they finally hit, all the cables went off and they finally hit the Black Stars, everything has come crashing down. And it's embarrassing, very embarrassing, especially also when you mentioned there were 8 teams competing for the AFCON to 12 teams. It used to be 4 teams to 8 to 12 to 16. Now, more than half of the continent participate to compete at the African Cup of Nations. So even the poorest of teams, or those we used to know had no talent, with little push will qualify, have all overtaken the Black Stars. So if 46, 47 teams are competing, let's say 50 teams out of the 54 are competing in the qualification process, and you do not make it, it really paints a very gloom picture of the state of your football.
When you hear foreign commentators, experts say that we're simply wasting talents, does that mean that the playing team is not to blame in this?
Absolutely not. I am one of the people who think that coaching at the Black Stars, coaching and playing body, has got nothing to do with the challenges that we have, because the factors or the facts are very bare. You have the players play week in, week out in the topmost leagues in the world, and they come here to play, and you want to sit back and say, are these really the players who were playing in the English Premier League last week? Is this a guy who scored in the Spanish La Liga last week? So you can separate it from the players not being talented to an institutional framework that doesn't function as it should. Because I heard the coach, Otuado, finally subscribing to the fact that Ghana doesn't have talent. And I said, you are in a group with Sudan, Niger, and Angola. So not having talent should not be an issue. If you are in a group with Brazil or England or Spain or Germany, that would have been a factor. That would have been an excuse. But if you are in a group with Sudan, Niger, Angola, talent should not be an issue. We have the top 3 dribblers in the English Premier League at this point, the best 3 dribblers in the most competitive league in the world, are all Ghanaians. The top 3 dribblers, people who can overtake the best and the most atrocious of defenders. The top 3 in the English Premier League are not Brazilians. They are not Portuguese. They are not Spanish. All top 3 are Ghanaians. And this has been consistent. Sometimes, but the best defender in the league in terms of blocks was a Ghanaian 2 years ago. French league, Spanish league. The talent is spread across. Even back home, you watch on grassless pitches. And I speak to some of these top agents, including the likes of the Right to Dream owner, and they say Ghana is only scratching the surface of the talent base. We are only scratching the surface of the talent base that we have. So talent has never been an issue. Our issue is an administrative failure and mismanagement, purely. Specific
to our recent outing that has brought us to this discussion, what do you think went wrong?
It went wrong long before the results happened. It's been coming. I'm sure we were in this studio almost 9 months ago. So all the factors that we mentioned, we saw it coming, because from round 16 to elimination in the group stages consecutively, the only option or the only available level for us was to not qualify. And when we sounded the alarm bells, there were so many names, name calling and other. What went wrong is that we have refused to accept the fact that the problems around the team are not what the authorities think should be addressed. There are people who have refused to take responsibility. So we keep on changing coaches. There is an issue of mismanagement at the national teams. There is a very stark issue of conflict of interest that we have refused to admit causing us. There is an issue of people not being merited in positions. There is an issue of inviting players who are not deserving. There is an issue of increasing interference in the invitation of players to the national teams. And the mismanagement, especially with the national teams, one of the key areas that we mentioned when we embarked on the demonstration 8 months ago was the fact that the national team management committees are only there in name. There is no substance. And that is the first thing the GFA has done today. When we called for the dissolution of the management 8 months ago, we were called names. Today, after the failure of the Black Stars to qualify, the GFA admits, and the first body that has been disbanded is the management committee. So it tells you that they refuse to admit to what were going wrong. The issue of management, the issue of conflict of interest, the lack of accountability, and the authorities refusing to accept what the actual problem is. And we will go in circles. Now, the next place to go, before the qualification of AFCON, there are matches played among teams like Chad, Eritrea, Somalia. That is the preliminary stage before you qualify. This is where we will struggle to now even make it from the prelim. So it is not an issue of the Black Stars failing to qualify. I want to situate it in the context of a bigger issue beyond the Black Stars qualification, and that is what we must address. Okay,
we'll come to those issues. Ibrahim, thank you for joining us. Okay, I understand that Sani Dara is not with us yet. So let me come to Henry. Will you won't agree with the Guardian's Wilson Jonathan when he says that he writes Ghana football in crisis, a generation of talent wasted. You won't agree with him?
I do not agree, simply because every generation has its own issues. I remember in 2004 when we did not qualify for the AFCON, there were loads of talent in that team. You know, Gaston Ayemfo, Sammy Kufuor, Sam Johnson, Stephen Beidu, Richard Kingston, and so forth and so on, Mohamed Gago and all those players. And we had one of the finest coaches who was at the helm at the time, Bukadziz, you know, but we did not qualify. So I think that sometimes pointing accusing fingers without looking into the science or the merits of the issue becomes the crux of the matter in situations like this. And so it is not only about talent, it is not only about coaching. There are a myriad of issues that have contributed to where we are. If you ask me, I think that maybe, just maybe, after the AFCON in Cote d'Ivoire, when we exited from the group stage, we decided to, the Executive Council took a decision to fire the coach who was in charge at the time, and then went through a process to bring in a new coach. And when the new coach came, we won our first 2 matches in the World Cup qualifiers. So where were those talents? Those talents who are playing today were in that team that beat Mali in Bamako. They had gone about 7 years or so without losing at home, but we went to Bamako to win. So yes, in the last 6 games from September 5, when we lost to Angola in Kumasi, drew with Niger in Morocco, drew with Sudan in Accra, went to Libya to lose to Sudan, and then drew with Angola last week and came to lose to Niger. There are issues. There are a number of factors if you want to analyze the games one after the other.
Jonathan says that the Black Stars have been abysmal throughout the qualifying process, a fate they undeniably deserve. Entering the last 2 fixtures, victory was essential alongside a hope that Sudan will falter in their matches. However, against all odds, Sudan triumphed over Niger with a shocking 4-0 victory, dashing Ghana's hope even further. The first sentence I read, the Black Stars have been abysmal throughout the qualifying process, a fate they undeniably deserve.
Yes, I will say that our games were not good enough per our standard. I am the first to admit that when we lost to Angola, I started feeling uneasy, and I told a number of people, I spoke to some of the players, I spoke to the coach, that this could come back to haunt us. I mentioned it to the president because the African game has got into a level where you tend to suffer if you do not take your home points. As soon as Angola beat us in Kumasi, they grew in confidence, went on to win and win and win, and they went through the entire process without losing a single game. So yes, performance-wise, I wouldn't rate the team highly. I can pick out the game against Angola in Kumasi and probably, the game against Sudan in Accra. The rest were not good enough.
Yeah, so they went through without losing a single game, and we went through without winning a single game.
Yes, that's why I said that I will agree to some extent, to a large extent, that our performance was not good enough. This is not the standard of the Black Stars. In previous qualifiers, 2 games to spare, we are already there. In previous qualifiers, maybe a game to end the qualifying series, the team has already qualified. But that is not what happened this time round, where we were going into the final round of games, hoping Niger will beat Sudan, Ghana will go to Angola and win, and then we'll come back and beat Niger, and then hopefully Angola will go to Sudan and shock them, in Libya. But you try as much as possible to avoid these challenges, by taking your home point. And as soon as you drop home points, especially when you are unable to win away from home. Before we beat Mali in Bamako, the team had gone more than 1 year without winning a game on the road. And so you have to consolidate your performance by winning your home games. And then you try to pick some points on the road to be able to qualify. And that is the simplest way of dealing with qualifiers of this nature. Once that did not happen, the pressure will increase, the players will begin to have doubts in their mind, and that is what happened. And then as soon as injuries also set in, you tend to lose the spine of your team. So the factors are quite enormous. And if we are going to deal with one factor after the other, we'll be able to look into the issues scientifically, assess them, look at management role, look at technical role, look at the playing body and their responsibilities. And I think that would help us. But generally, in terms of performance, we were not good enough.
It may not be the best example to use, but imagine the Black Stars were your kid that you have hired a teacher for, and you put them through an exam, and they fail from one to the next, one to the next, one to the next, until they get a Z. What will you do?
You have to continue to invest.
In the teacher?
Unfortunately, no, not in the teacher necessarily. First of all, you need to look into the matter.
But you would drive the teacher away?
If it depends.
You lose your dogs on the teacher when it comes to the gate?
It depends. It's not always the case. That has been what we've done, or the association has done in the last 4 occasions. CK left, Milo came, Milo left, Otto came, Otto left, Chris Hilton came, Chris left, and Otto came back. So you in each of these situations, there are reasons. It's not only about technical reasons on the pitch. Sometimes it's about management off the pitch, which informs your decision or gives you the reason to fire. So the example you gave, if my child continues to fail in the school and he has a teacher who is good, maybe we have to go into the issues by engaging the teacher, engaging the child, sit both of them down, find out what is wrong. If the problem is coming from the teacher, you fire the teacher and get a new teacher to take over. If the problem is coming from your ward, you look at the solution. Is the solution about giving up? Absolutely not. You have to continue to invest. So we are in a very tight situation where we cannot abandon the team, where we cannot say our national team hasn't performed.
I'm not sure anybody is suggesting you should abandon the team.
No, there have been issues about investment. And you need to also look at investment and return. The return after investment, or the benefit after investment. Government will continue to invest, but when it gets to a point where you are not getting the results, what do you do? I think that is where we are.
I can imagine that naturally at the GFA, you are very hurt, right?
Absolutely.
Except that people say your comments don't show it. Because if you have the power to hire, and you're embarrassed in this manner, the first things you do is to use that power.
Okay, so in the executive council meeting on Wednesday, they took a decision to invite the coach, which is a norm. It's been happening, you know. So the coach will appear before the committee. He needs to submit his report. His report will be perused by the committee. Hopefully his report would be submitted before he appears. So by the time he appears, they have a foreknowledge of what transpired in the qualifying series, whatever challenges whatsoever, he needs to make it known. And once he appears before the committee and answers questions, they will make a firm decision regarding his future. That is the state of affairs.
So Edward, I'll come to you, and I've got Songo joining us on the phone, or is it on Zoom? Before I bring him in, before I bring him to do fire for fire, hold on small. So the management committee has been dissolved.
Yeah.
Is that what it takes? And we are hearing Randy Abe is to chair, you know, a new process for that. Is that what it takes? Is that all?
Not really. I think the dissolution of the management is very insignificant to the problems that we face. And like Henry mentioned, these are the issues that has persisted. We win 1-2 games for a team that had been consistent in performance. We win 1-2 games, and that is the measure. And I always say, even a faulty clock produces the correct time twice a day. So winning 1-2, I think that we have to measure the performance of the team as against the previous standard, what we used to be. So I don't think that winning 1-2 matches in the World Cup qualification stage and losing 6 consecutive games, Henry will agree that no coach in a country with a quarter Ghana's reputation will maintain his position if they go 6 games without a win and end up in a group of teams that did not win a single game, Eswatini, Chad, and the like. So we have to first admit that winning 2 games in World Cup qualifiers will not be a justification for Otto not qualifying the team for the first time in 20 years and not winning a game in 6. The first time in history that this happened. We have to accept that. The dissolution of the management, reason why I say it's insignificant is because the management committee has only existed in name. It's a phantom committee, this current one. 6, they are 5.
Is that a fair criticism?
Yes. Because
people have been working to ensure that things are working and they are not getting the results you desire. So this is how
Samson, you are perusing the headline before you read the contents of what I am about to say.
Okay, let me hear.
They have existed in name. So if you dissolve it, you are dissolving a body that is dead. The management committee consists of 5 people. After the 2022 World Cup.
There were 7.
No, those who went to, they were 7 and reduced to 5.
There were 7.
Yes.
Jones Alassane Abu passed.
Yes.
And then it was left with 6. Then after the World Cup, Sami Kufuor left. He resigned, actually.
Yes.
And then Kenel Damois also resigned. And I think Alaji Gruza also left. So 6.
This is the point.
And then it was left with 3. Makado, Kwesi Ajiman, and then Mr. Kotoba, seconds.
Yes. So it's a body that consists of 7 members. And 1 passed, unfortunately. There was no replacement. If it's a corporate practice that you say you want 7 for a particular purpose, 1 passed, he wasn't replaced. Gruza resigned or left, he wasn't replaced. Kenel Damois has not been with the team, as we know. Based on paper, he's there, but based on fact, he's not been with the team. Sami Kufuor left. If you add the 3 to the 1 who passed, that's 4. You have 3 of them during the qualification stages, especially the crucial periods of the team. The 2 members who were with the team, Mr. Kwesi Ajiman, the head of tourism, and Mark Addo, who is the chairman of the committee. When we needed wins, if the management is that important, both of them were absent in the United States, as we hear. So this is a committee. We thought that they did not exist in substance.
So let's
yes.
help me here.
Yes.
The committee has been left with how many members over what period?
From 2022, after the World Cup, before the World Cup, Jones Abu left, then Gruza left, Sami Kofo left, Kenel Damoa left, and left with...
so roughly, Henry may help us. How long have they been?
1 year.
1 year. Reduced to how many?
3.
3.
Yes. They did not, it wasn't the same period.
I get that.
Yes.
I get that.
They
I
left
get that.
at different time.
I get that. I get that. But that means the committee does not exist. A committee of 7 left with 3 cannot be holding meetings.
Yes.
Okay, so
in the name of the committee.
The background to this whole issue was that after the AFCON, the Executive Council took a decision to disband all national team committees and left the Black Stars committee hanging because they had an immediate assignment. The AFCON ended in February. We had an immediate assignment in March. So they said, okay, then let's allow them to take us through the first
so
games.
replenish it.
The first 2 games.
It's not a committee. When it's left with 3, it's not a committee anymore.
That is what has been the case in the last...
Okay.
1 year.
So conclude at that point
now?
quickly. Sunny is on. I had called him and he wasn't...
If you agree that conclusively it is not a committee, then my justification that dissolving a committee that doesn't exist is not doing anything. Yeah, there's nothing that has been done. The real challenge needs to be addressed. The dissolution, if we do not explain it like this for you to understand, it will appear the FA has taken a significant decision. They have not done anything.
Okay. Sunny, thanks for joining us.
Samson, and good morning.
Good morning. I had asked Henry the question, and I don't know whether you share in that question, where the Guardian's Jonathan Wilson, in describing our circumstance, says that the Black Stars have been abysmal throughout the qualifying process, a fate they undeniably deserve.
I'll disagree with Jonathan, a chap I've known perhaps for 20 years. I'll disagree with him. I would only come to that conclusion if the conclusion he made was that, the qualifying process, by the way it ended, was disastrous. There's no running away from that fact. But the processes in itself is something we have to examine.
It's disastrous, but not deserving.
I don't think it was deserving.
Okay.
One, given the talent we have, given the energies that the coaching staff put together, only to be blighted, in my opinion, by some, unfortunate happenings that happens in football. For example, mass and extensive injuries in the squad. One, I would also have to, somehow go the path of Jonathan in saying that the coach, would have to also carry part of the can, because I thought that some of the decisions he took before the qualifiers started or during the qualifiers did not help us. Maybe it's an issue of man management. But that apart, I think that the coach himself exerted himself well towards the qualifying process. The players did their best under the circumstances. And, that culminated in that.
An example of some of the decisions he took going into the qualifiers that you fault. An example.
I felt that, towards the middle of the qualifiers where he made changes to the leadership of the team. We clearly saw Jordan Ayew complaining to Coach Kwesi Appiah, who was a coach of an opposing team. So that tells, if you're an observer from the back, that tells you that obviously there's a problem in the team. If a member of the team goes out there to complain to the coach of the opposing team, it tells you that there are problems within the team. And I thought that could have been better handled. And also to add to the second point of, taking the decision not to come along with Andre Ayew, at the time that he himself had not taken a decision to, exclude himself from the team, and he was back playing. I think he should have left the window open for Andre to make a decision by himself. And that would have endeared a lot of people to him. But you can hear people, a lot of the ex-players saying that the way we retire players is not the right way. I thought that Otto could have better handled those situations.
Don't football managers find themselves in the most difficult circumstances? You talk about Andre. I mean, you were at a time where it was poisonous in the public to field him, right?
Yes, I agree. But if you leave him out in the lurch completely, and then he comes back to playing, he's playing, and then you are affected by mass injuries, then people will come back and say, why did you do that? And so you see, he didn't have that hindsight. That is why I'm a bit soft on him. He did not have that hindsight. If he had known, perhaps, that he would be faced with lots of injuries in the squad. In our last game, for instance, 8 players withdrew. And even on the match day, we had 2 or 3 injuries that are now long-term injuries. If he had had that hindsight, you can be harsh on him, but he doesn't have the hindsight. So I would have thought that these decisions are decisions, that, worked against him, largely not his fault.
So, Sonny, let me ask the question, what should be done now? Sucking the coaches out of the way, for you, I'm sure I've heard you somewhere. We've heard people like Nana Kumia, others who say that, no, this is not the right thing to do. If you continue to do that, then you are not going to have a consistent team that will be able to work for the next time. But I was using the kid in school example, and people just send me messages. They say, I'll just pick the kid out of that school. That whole school must be shut down. What do you say?
No, I don't agree with that notion. In football, you realize that sometimes longevity does you some good. And the best examples we can go is the Angolan coach, Pedro Gonçalves. He's coming up to about the 10th year. We're in the same group with him. He's coming up to about his 10th year with the team. And that applies to Aliou Cisse, the coach of the Senegal national team. They kept faith with him. Now, look at the raft of coaches we've changed over the past few years. And you say that if we give some stability, perhaps if the coach doesn't show or has not demonstrated that he's capable of steering the team in the right path, yes, you would fire him. But he's demonstrated consistently that he's the man to steer the team in the right path. Now, let's take the points one after the other. Look at the first time he took the team. He took the team when everything was disheveled. Things were haywire. He came, put the team together, qualified against the almighty Nigeria, full of star-studded players, with a team of an average age of about 20 years, and took them to the World Cup. And our World Cup was not disastrous. Imagine that we were the lowest ranked team in that group. We went there, we beat South Korea. We played a very good game against Portugal and unfortunately lost against Uruguay. When you have such a young team, you can say, oh, from there they can grow and be better. Unfortunately, we brought in Chris Houston. He completely botched it. And there was a need for us to rebuild. And to be honest, some of the players also lost form in that intervening period.
I'm surprised you can say what you say about Chris Hughton that you can't say about Otto Addo.
I can't say that about Otto Addo because, look, our play under Chris Hughton, you would admit, was completely disjointed. But if an Otto Addo team is playing, and I've spent the past 3 or 4 days since we bombed out of the qualifiers, watching at the matches again, looking at the World Cup qualifiers, the match we played against Central African Republic and Mali. Mali, we beat them in their home in the World Cup qualifiers to revive our World Cup chances. I see a team that can do well, that can grow. So I'm calling for patience for the coach, for him to be able to build a team of these young players we have, then we can move forward in the right direction and get things done. The coaches, human beings like you and I, will make mistakes, and they will learn from some of these mistakes to be better. The consistent changing of coaches won't help us. We have a young team. Just this week, 3 of our players were said to be the best dribblers in the English Premier League. All of them are maybe before their mid-20s. This is a team that has a lot of potential. So we should not just destroy everything.
You will make the case that Kwesi Appiah should have been kept for the same reasons you are giving for Otto Addo?
At that time, yes, I would have thought that Kwesi Appiah should have been kept. At that time, yes. Okay.
So immediately, if we have any hopes at all in the next,
World Cup qualifiers.
Yes.
Yeah.
In a minute or two, tell me, what should we be doing if we have to get that? Give us a list.
I think number 1, we should be uniting the football family. I think there are too many factions within the football family. Previously, we used to go to the battlefield as a united front. Some players have grievances. Some members of the football family have grievances. The media has grievances. The FA has grievances. And we have elders in the house. I would think that the first thing we do is to put the family together, unite them.
Okay.
As the first measure. Get the management committee together, a good management committee that can unite the football family. I'm hearing some names that are not uniting factors within the football family. There are lots of people that I'm hearing that, will even evoke anger when their names come up. I think that we should be working towards that and go with the united front in the future. The future will be better, I'm sure.
Nobody in this management should suffer anything for what has happened.
I think there should be changes. The current management, as it is now, I think there should be changes. A lot of things have changed. Coaches have changed. Some of the technical staff have changed. So if persistently it doesn't work, I think the current management should be changed. And we should have a new management team that would be a uniting factor for the entire football family.
Okay, thank you. Patrick Osei-Agyeman, thanks for joining us. So briefly, what's your view? What should we do?
Something, thank you very much, but some guys are not honest. This funny guy is not honest. Understand? Yeah. You always want things to go his way, benefiting from our football.
Yeah, I think you can make your point without attacking him.
I'm not attacking him, but I mean, what are you telling me? A coach who can't beat even Sudan, Niger, Angola. We have 6 matches. We played 6 matches. We didn't win even one, not even a single match or a single game. And you tell me this coach, we have a future with this coach. This coach can qualify us for the World Cup. I don't get it. Yes, you want to keep the coach for that long term, but not just a coach, not an incompetent coach, not a coach who. I mean,
when shall we come to the realization that we need to grow someone for a sustainable period? We didn't give Kwesi Appiah that opportunity. We didn't give CK Akono that opportunity. Milovan and Chris Hughton, all of them. So when shall we come to that point?
Thank you very much. When you talk of pursuing CK Akono and Otto Addo, Milovan, we didn't give them the chance. Out of these coaches, Samson, CK Akono, his average score is the best out of these coaches. CK Akono was not given much opportunity, that support. the interference from the FA was too many for CK Akono to handle. So if you talk of CK Akono and Coach Otuado, CK Akono is far better. CK Akono is far learned than Otuado when it comes to coaching. His coach seems like House of Folk and even Kotoko. You understand? He at least he has the experience. But
you, the same people never spared him. You, the same people never spared him.
It is not we the same people. It's so-called football people. The FA president and his people. The FA president said that he would always be adding up his views, or he would not sit down for CK Akono to only do the selection, any Black Stars coach to select players. But he is also going to make sure that, he has his views and, what he thinks about selecting players to the national team. So CK Akono was not giving that support. CK Akono, he has come out to talk about these things. You understand? After he was sacked. But what I'm saying to you is, if you want somebody to stay that long to coach the national team, you need a bright coach, somebody you can see the future in the coach, somebody you can see future, somebody you seem to see that yes, this is the learned coach, this is the coach that can turn things around, that can transform the team. When you talk of Otuado coming to qualify Ghana to the World Cup, that was against Nigeria. It was anybody's game. He didn't win that game. It was a drawn game. It was just an away goal that he was able to use to qualify Ghana to the World Cup. And that World Cup, what didn't you see? An abysmal performance. It was an abysmal performance from the Blacks after playing 3 matches and getting out of the tournament. Then you get out of the tournament from World Cup, you come home, you don't come to learn.
What should happen? What should happen? What should happen? Solutions going forward. What should happen?
You start the coach. Yes. Left to me alone, these FA people, they would have at least received their start. Left to me alone, changes should have been done at the FA. But when you come to the technical team and you tell me that you've only sacked management team, or you are doing changes at the management level, yes, so be it. But the coach, he is not a good coach. He's an incompetent coach. We've seen him. You play against Sudan, Niger, Angola, you can't win just a single match. You want to tell me that you can be good for the future? It is never true. Let us be truthful to ourselves. Let us be. What are you waiting for? You are waiting for the technical report from Otuado. What technical report? When we went to Cote d'Ivoire for the AFCON, and we failed in Cote d'Ivoire, why didn't they wait for Chris Hughton's technical report before they appointing Otuado to be the next coach? At least they should have waited for Chris Hughton's technical report. Then we'll know what really transpired, what really went wrong.
Okay.
But they didn't do that. But now they want to wait for Otuado's technical report. And what at all that are they waiting for this technical report? Because out of 6 matches, the coach couldn't win a single match. And left to Otuado, he doesn't call players based on merit. He doesn't know how to manage players. Even the captains.
Okay, thank you.
It was so bad.
Thank you, Songo.
The way he managed the
Thank you, Songo. I'll take some brief comments from Edward before I come back to Henry, and then Sadiq. So sometimes, to be frank with you, the way we want to manage football, and almost all Ghanaians become coaches, become managers, it's not like sitting here. Everybody will criticize you because you are doing a show. Everybody criticizes you, but it's different this way. Is it not a difficult terrain they find themselves? When Anas gave us sort of a clean slate to begin to repair the damage, I was privileged to, chair the disciplinary committee. I had the opportunity invited to return to it, but I declined. I'll tell you, I didn't decline because I didn't think I could give my services there. But even some of the decisions you take, the kind of things you meet when you are done with your meetings, the teams and their leaders, it can be dangerous for your own life.
Something I agree with you, and your experience that you are just saying. I remember some years back when I used to be the secretary to the appeals committee, then chaired by the retired Chief Justice Anyenini.
Yeah.
I remember you will finish, Anyenini will bring his report for you to finally put them together. You see calls, and so I can appreciate the challenges that you, if you really want to work with proper structures, the challenges you have. But you see, Samson, let me tell you one thing. If you have and I'm just going based on your analogy, if you have a situation where, for the last decade, I was just looking at the data, for the last decade, you have moved in terms of FIFA ranking. There are parameters they use in ranking the quality of your team. You move from 24th to 73rd in 10 years. And you've been declining, apart from a few ones that there has just been a change, some flashes, maybe from 37th to 33rd and other. But you've declined from 24th to 73. So it tells you very clearly that there's a problem that has to be dealt with. It goes beyond just whether the coach is good or the coach is not good. You see, I happen to have gone to a particular school, for example, in St. Charles. I remember those times when we used to be there. All the masters that we had were people who were there to rewrite their A-levels because they had challenges. They were old students who may have written and maybe one paper was not good, another paper was not good. But during those periods, the late 90s, thereabout, results, why? St. Charles was one of the best in the North. The reason was because you had administrators who could supervise these people to really be able to teach you to pass an exam. Mm-hmm. And so it just goes beyond the person, the final person who gives you the instructions to go and execute a duty. It has to do with a lot of things. One, let's look. Over the years, I mean, sometimes we just need to look at our experience. Over the years, we have situations where our national teams have been about 80% from our youth teams. You do not have a situation where a national team coach has a luxury, apart from major tournaments, that he can have about a month or 3 weeks to train players. Usually he calls players, and within 3-4 days, he has to play a match. And so you do not have an opportunity to really bring them and impact your instructions and other things for them to play, because they are coming from different countries, different coaches who have different ways of training them. But when you have a consistent build-up, from say from your under 17, if you saw your under 12, under 16, under 17, under 20, under 23, before they come into the national team, you have a situation where they have played with themselves over a period of time. The question you have to ask, how come that our youth teams have all collapsed? Those days, we used to say, look, even the last team that performed was performing very well. The Dede group that finally ended up winning the under 20 in Egypt or somewhere thereabout. They formed the baseline, the spine of the team that going forward. Look at the current team now. You don't have that. So that is one challenge that our teams from the youth levels have all collapsed. Why have they collapsed? Part of it has to do with the administration. 2, I think that in GFA, there's so much conflict of interest. And that the GFA laws itself will have to be looked again. The current laws as it stands says that to be able to even be part of the GFA management team, like the GFA to be elected, you must have been either a club man or a club owner. It's part of the tender you have. So you even see that people are affiliated to clubs. Now these same people are also, because, look, for many years, our clubs have been run from the domestic pockets of individuals. People use their own monies to run teams, clubs. So assuming that he's an owner of a club, and he finds his way of becoming a GFA person, he's sitting down there, he knows that his dividends will only come when he has an opportunity to sell a player outside the country. He can only sell a player outside the country if he is showcased in a national team that plays in an international platform. So he comes. And whether the person is merit of that particular invitation or not, there's always this tendency to see how you can push your own club. And then we have had instances where coaches have been indicating that, look, people have been pushing and forcing players to be selected into the national. So in terms of merit, as to whether that happens is another issue. And I think consistency in terms of the coach. I am one person, and when I was outside, I was telling Sadiq that I'll be the last person to say that they should sack Otuado. Because you can sack Otuado and go and bring Pep. Trust me. If we do not resolve these petty issues, changing the GFA structures to ensure that you let competent people who can run clubs, who can run football administration, who are interested in these things, who have the technical know-how, to present themselves for elections, not necessarily being an owner of a club. 2, ensure that you have our youth teams being built. And these youth teams can be built if we also have very good infrastructure to start training them from the grassroots. Those days we used to have this Winneba Sports College, where the students were actually brought there. They were attending GSS and other things in Winneba there whilst being trained. And these were people who progressed into various clubs. Why can't we revisit that? And so again, it comes back to, in terms of our investment into sports infrastructure, particularly football infrastructure. How on earth that can we, as a country like Ghana, that for the Kwame Nkrumah's country, that at one point we were even debating the fact that there was a possibility that we were going to play our home matches outside the country because we did not have proper pitches for our players to be able to play in those particular places. So I'll leave that to the experts, but I think that the problem goes beyond just the technical team and what do you call it, and but you see, I said maybe when you are talking about the fact you're waiting for the GFA, what do you call it, technical, the coach to bring his report for you people to make an assessment on Wednesday. So the first thing that came to my mind was that you have a management team that manages this national team. This management team basically will have to give you a report that goes from health to other things to this to be able to take a decision. Even before you go for that meeting, you fire that management team, and then you go and say that you are waiting for a report from the coach to be able to take a decision. I mean, I'm just trying to tell you that you can do a bit more better. You can do a bit better with. I mean, these days management of football is science, isn't it? It's data. And so you can do better than you are doing.
Okay, thank you.
That's all I'm saying.
Thank you, Eddie. So Henry, this issue they bring in about, and Sadiq began to raise it, about the conflict of interest situations which lead to, not the best standard of a team. Is it yesterday I was reading Najib Yakubu, talking about how he had some issues with Keto Kreku and he took it personal, and how such things affect someone being called up into the national team. People who already have interests, how real is the situation? I don't know if I'm asking the right person the question.
Well, just to talk about one of the issues he raised, then I will come to your question. He spoke about the absence of national academies, or in the past, we never used to select players. Yes, I agree 100% that the structures, which is the foundation, has been a problem for some time now. In time past, you can close your eyes and select home-based players to play for the national team, and you are rest assured that we will get the results. Jones Atukwefio did it in 2000 when he took the entire House of Oak team to play Nigeria at the Accra Sports Center when we played a draw. There were only 2 players who were not part of a House of Oak team who, he selected to play in that squad. So yes, I agree that there are issues with the foundation which we have started addressing. Today, Coast football is everywhere in the country. We have been able to secure sponsorship to sponsor juvenile competitions. And the FA, through FIFA, has set up an academy in Wikongo near Bogatanga in the Upper East region. There are plans to also put up one in Kumasi. We are almost through with administrative arrangement with Osei Tretre Senior High School, where it will be the school to spearhead that project in the Middle Belt, and then we'll have one at Pram Pram for the southern sector. But that is a long-term project. I mean, you begin to yield those benefits in 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years time. So it does not reflect immediately. I just wanted to give him that information. And then back to your question. Yes, there have been some concerns that I will allude to, that sometimes there is influence, there is conflict of interest and what have you. But at the end of the day, it depends on where you sit, and it depends on how you analyze the situation. If I have a player, for instance, in 2019, when we played at the Africa Cup of Nations in Egypt, there was a young boy called Samuel Owusu who was in that squad. Samuel had then burst onto the scene from the local divisions in Ghana, went to Europe, was doing well in Serbia, and he was recommended. Now, 90% of the time, from where I sit and what I know, 90% of the time, these things happen based on recommendations. Now, when you recommend a player, Sadiq can recommend a player to me if I have a club. I can recommend the player to you if you have a club. You can do same if I am the head coach of the Satellites or Meteors or Black Queens or any of the national teams. But it is up to the player to prove, on the pitch. It becomes problematic when you now have to insist that the player plays at all costs. Where I sit, I cannot prove that there have been such situations. This is not the platform to compare who did that and who did not do that. Yes, the president is also on record to have said that in this era, you cannot leave the selection of players to one individual. Yes, but how far can you go in terms of those interventions? That is another subject that needs to be discussed. How far can you go? Is it only at the recommendation stage, or you have to move directly into it?
Someone says the conflict of interest is too much. They focus only on their soccer academy players to gain selection to national teams.
Because if I am looking at the current Black Stars, for instance, I do not know which player belongs to the president or the vice president or the management committee chairman whatsoever. These players, I spend a lot of time with the technical team when they are putting their squads together. And sometimes they select 25 out of 50, 25 out of 40, 35, 30, and so forth and so on. And they do it independently without the involvement of the hierarchy of the FA.
What's the GFA's plan going forward?
Well, first of all, we need to resolve the technical direction of the team, which is...
what does that mean? Resolve the technical direction. What does that mean?
The Executive Council will meet on Wednesday again. They will have the benefit of listening to the coach, after which a decision will be made. And then from there, we also have to look at the junior national teams and how best we can bring them up. Yes, it is also a fact that the U20, the U17 have not been competitive over a period. On 4 occasions, we haven't qualified for the African Championship as far as the U17 is concerned, and that is a major worry. And then we've been in and out of the Africa Championship. That takes us to the World Cup. We qualified in 2021. Because of COVID, FIFA cancelled the World Cup. Then the next edition, we couldn't make it. This time, we are fortunate to make it to another African Championship. And then we will look at making it to the World Cup. You only have a strong base when your junior national teams are also doing well. And that is what needs to be restored.
Interesting.
Once we are able to finish get a good foundation, lay all the layers, and ensure these national teams, junior national teams, are doing well, you have a good future because they will feed, the A national.
So Sadiq, I'll be frank with you.
Yes.
This nice presentation he just made about looking into the future.
Yeah.
I've heard it over and again when we get to this place.
Right.
So I'm asking, how can I trust that it will ever happen? Dima Ismail says, or Ishmael says that, I'm a proud progressive conservative of our country, Ghana. I want everything good. The GFA has a problem, and that's the knee-jerk reactionary attitude. I want them to allow Otuado to work for some time. Ghana can learn from Senegal's glory. Then Eddie Queno says, not only should the Black Stars coach be fired, immediately, I think the entire GFA management should go. I'll read a few more later, but what do you say? And I see you have made a lot of notes.
I'm just trying to, Sandy makes a point of Angola coach. Some of your texters are talking about how the Angolan coach, Aliou Cisse, Senegal. And I blame Ghanaians, all of us. Something, we have become too focused on the Black Stars. So when you talk about the real challenges that culminate in the Black Stars failure, people don't even understand. So they just see the Black Stars playing. That's where everybody's heart is. And unless and until the Black Stars, there's a problem with the Black Stars, nobody finds fault with our football. The Angolan coach was appointed 8 years ago to start from under 17. He has been building his team from Angola under 17 to under 20 before he proved himself to coach the national team. This is a group of players he has built substantially. Aliou Cisse was first an assistant for 3 years to the under 23, qualified them for the Olympic Games before he proved that he can coach.
You don't see a plan in Ghana?
No. Knee-jerk, emotions, power play. Look at the appointment of coaches and management committee members. You see, Henry mentioned, and he alludes, and I have to give to him that he accepts the fact that there is, in Ghana, the conflict of interest situation, real and perceived, both exists in large volumes at the FA. He says that how far can you go with the interventions you make? Samson, can you imagine that the English national team coach, 4 years after he's been sacked, says he makes a list of players, 23, presents it to the FA after acceptance. When it is published, there is a player that he's not invited in the squad. And this is not investigated in this country. Black Stars, not under 12, not under 15, not under 2. C.K. Akono has said he presented the squad.
Yeah, I heard him.
That's, I am the Black Stars coach. I have given the squad of players we have accepted. Then I give the squad to the FA to publish that this is the list of, not the intervention stage, not the collaboration stage. Then when the squad is published, there's a player, he says, I did not invite this player. We did not investigate that. He has come back again to say there is a real mess in terms of the way the FA interferes with head coaches. If you want to believe in this system, Najib comes to say, the president of the FA wanted me to play for, it's an allegation. Yabwa Tinjan has made this. There are several calls of this to journalists that we know sometimes you can't put them out. But we have to accept that the FA president owns about 6-7 teams. And if I'm not mistaken, that's under his belt, clubs that he used to run before he became the FA, and more after that. People close to him have clubs. And the call-ups, you can forget about the Black Stars and say, no player from the FA President Club. Even the appointment to the technical teams, the backroom staff of teams, is so tainted. If we don't accept this, and you come and tell me there is future, I may not trust the same association that relieved Kwesi Appiah, that brought in Milo, that relieved CK, that brought in Otuado, that relieved Otuado, brought in Chris Hilton, brought Otuado back again, to say they are constituting another meeting to bring in a coach. The defect is with the appointing body. And they don't accept that these issues of conflict of interest, the politicization, the enmity amongst the football people. I want to end on this point that Honorable Bawa makes. And Samson, if we want to take our football serious, in 2004, when we failed to qualify, we brought in fresh legs, players who we had trained from under 17 to under 20. They had played at the World Cup twice. There was Derek Boateng, Mike Elysian, John Mensah, John Pinstall, Razak Pimpong, Adukwe Papu. All these players, Suleiman Tari, they had played in the under 17 World Cup, under 20 World Cup. So the progression, the transition, you could see that we have failed to qualify, but there is future. They took us for 12 to 15 years. In 2008, we promoted a list of players. So you have two options when your national team fails. Either to, this is exclusive to Africans, to go for the under 20 team or under 17, or to go for your domestic players. Ghana doesn't have those two options now. So which players are going to transition into the new team? So my point is that it is not an issue of Otuado, even though I believe that Otuado is not the right man now from what players we have spoken to. He's lost the dressing room. We have to accept. But the problem goes deeper than just alluding to the blame to the coach. The Ghana Football Association is a problematic institution, and the 122 members there are supposed to make a deep inquisition into their affairs before we change any other thing around the team.
Prince Henry in Koforidua says, the fact is Keto Kreku's leadership has been miserable and disastrous. In a serious state, the entire GFA leadership will resign the very day they fail to qualify the Black Stars to the next AFCON. But here we are, seeing them justifying their abysmal performance. Erosa Affair. If GFA employs qualified coaches to fill the gap and allow them to work without any interference, then Black Stars will work again. All right, thanks for those messages. Of course, I have you still on the line, so I'll give you a minute each. Your thoughts. Let's begin with Songo. Yes?
Yeah. When you talk of appointing a coach, you talk about appointing a quality coach for the future. A coach you can see the future that is bright. Not just, friends and cronies, or maybe somebody you can manipulate. You understand? That is what I always talk about. It's not just only about sacking coaches that somebody has interest in. No, that is not the issue here. But you are just not appointing the right coaches. Go to the junior national teams. There are certain coaches who are not supposed to be there. But these football people appointed them. And we failed. We failed at the under 17 level. We failed at the 20 level. We failed at the local Blasters. We failed at under 23. Now we have failed miserably at the Blasters level. And you go to our local football where you can't even get local talent to play the Blasters alongside the foreign-based players. It tells you that the local football, then, they are not doing it well because we don't even have sponsors for the local football, not even a headline sponsor. You understand? Where are the TV rights? How much are we getting from TV rights so that we can even be able to sell our players out there? You understand? To show the talents that Ghana will. So I'm saying that the future, as you are saying, that these football people are saying is bright. I don't say it that way. They are only just here just to, talk, just to be able to, tell Ghanaians that they are going to solve issues. But that is not the issue here.
Okay.
Things are not well for our football, and we got to, be serious so we can be able to get back, our football to where we have to get our football.
There's this message, Yawinti. He says that Songo is correct. CK Akono was denied the opportunity to establish a team which should have taken him at least 5 years. But another Yao says that the same Songo was criticizing CK Akono like nobody's business. What do you want the GFA to do?
I was putting CK Akono on his post in a very much professional way so he can be able to handle the Blasters.
Yeah, we understand. As for your fire, it's a professional fire. Thank you.
I don't start coaching.
Okay.
I only put them on their toes.
Thank you, Songo. Okay, thank you, Songo. Musa Abata says that not Musa, Pa Francis says, Sani Diarra, please stop what you are saying. You don't need a coach to motivate a player who is going to play against Nigeria. We all know the rivalry, and that alone is enough for a player to give his all. This has nothing to do with a coach. Otuado is not a coach. Oh, how can he say that? He's not a coach. Sack him. Your final words in 1 minute. Sani Diarra.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I heard the professional fire. But it's a fire for no reason. It's a fire for no reason. Now, Honorable Bauer made some salient points that needs to be taken seriously. But going to the crux of the matter is what we have all identified about the youth systems. And I think that we need to identify the problems as they are. Number one, all the major academies in Ghana are not releasing their players to our junior national teams anymore, be it WAFA, be it the Right to Dream Academy, and all. It's one basic reason. They send their players to the junior national teams, and the scouts and agents come there to come and steal them. Currently, these academies have the best and the brightest Ghanaian talents, and they hold them. So until we are able to find a solution to that problem, where people release their players to the national teams, and then scouts and agents come there to turn the heads of the players against their academies or steal them, we'll continue to have this problem.
Okay.
But also, there is a problem, whether perception or real, that there are certain, players from certain teams that don't get call-ups to the national teams, the junior national teams. I think that junior national team coaches must take note of this. I'll cite an example. For example, in the Ghana Premier League today, the youngest team is Accra Lions. I'm associated with the team. I have to come train on this. Now, you call an under-20 national team, and there's not even one player. It is the youngest player team in the Ghana Premier League. There's a national under-20 team, and you don't have even one player. Yet a player from that team goes from that team and plays in the Barcelona second team. What does it tell you? But we must not blame the federation. The coaches must carry the can. In any way, they do the selections.
Not the federation.
And I expect that we should move towards...
You must not blame the federation. Who employs the coaches?
So this is where you
Who employs the coaches? And is it not the case, as we were made to know, that Coach Otoado, for example, couldn't meet a single of the job qualification criteria that was set out for him? So who employed him? And why do you say the federation must not take any blame? Now, we come back to the same point where the federation vets players. They are said to have selected players to the national team. But I will come to a solution where Burkina Faso uses the same structure to act as the control body to the coaches of the national teams. Okay.
And what do? They have a body of experienced national team coaches from the country. So when players are called to the national team, this body sits with the coaches, vets the players, and asks them, maybe there are teams here, there are some players here, why are they not in the team? I think that we must learn. If we look at some of the problems we have and we see that some have successfully dealt with them and are now showing on the international level, and Burkina Faso is coming up, under 17, under 20, they are qualifying for the AFCON.
Thank you, Sani Dara.
Consistently these days.
Thank you very much. Gentlemen, thank you so very much. Unfortunately, this is all time will allow us. You have a difficult job. We wish you the very best. And Ghanaians are waiting to hear good news from you in managing the team going forward. Ani says that those running the Black Stars, we should ask them, will they run their businesses in the same way they do? We ask the same question of the politicians, don't we? Edward, we are going to be plunged into Dumsor next week.
If they carry out the threat.
One has already gone ahead because it's not a threat, they are compelled.
Actually, one has gone ahead. You have a Mandi, for example, that says that under the pretext that they are supposed to do some maintenance, they have shut down. Car Power is also indicating that they have some challenges. And under those pretexts, they are trying not to come on board. So yes, if we do not do anything between now and maybe Monday, Tuesday.
The debt there is humongous. And you guys too are not going back to Parliament. If Ian Fenyon is asking you to come, right? Hold on, we'll take a break. We'll be back. Thank you very much, Henry, Sadiq, and Ibrahim. You're welcome back. And my guest for this segment on the Dumsor Scare, Engineer David Asamoah, who is the Acting Managing Director of the Electricity Company of Ghana. He should explain to all of us why in the last week I've had to use my plant for how many times. And unannounced, the power is off. Ben Boache is Executive Director, Africa Center for Energy Policy, ASEP. Nana Moesi is Executive Director, Institute for Energy Security, IES. And Edward Abambere Bawa still here is MP Bongo and co-spokesperson on energy for the NDC manifesto. This show is brought to you by the candid sponsorship of Bank of Africa, as strong as a group and closer partner, MTN everywhere you go. Ashesi University, educating ethical and entrepreneurial leaders for Africa. Robert & Sons Optical Services, your comprehensive eye care service provider for 33 plus years. My Way Insurance. Simply dial *165# on MTN to join My Way today. DPS International, where every child shines. Flamingo Paints, simply superior. Syntex Tanks, it's strong, it's tough. And Activa International Insurance, our clients, our passion. My outfits, as always, is by Konatic Clothing. What you wear counts. You can find them at Adenta Shopping Center, Adenta Down. You can call them 0244 676732. 676732. Konatic Clothing. Thank you very much. Now, so should I go on the phone first? Yes. Thank you for joining us, David Asamoah. Hello, David. Please unmute your mic.
Yeah, I'm around. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, as we understand from Sonon Asogli, they issued a press statement or a statement that explains the circumstances that they currently face, and many say that's unpardonable. How do you want, a business to continue to run in plunging them into such, deep debt situation? In excess of almost 260 million US dollars that you are supposed to pay. You haven't paid them, and that is excluding the fuel cost, residual fuel cost. As we understand, Senate is shut down already, is it? ASCA has significantly reduced its load. Car Power has significantly reduced its load. Amandi is off, together with Sonon Asogli off. Why did we get here?
Okay. Thank you very much for the question. I want to thank you, and I want to greet my colleagues who are present with you. The facts of the matter is what I'm going to say. In the first place, yes, it is true that Sonia Asogli has gone off because of some debt that we owe, as you rightly said. But the truth is that
Amandi has also gone off.
Amandi has gone off not because of the fact that we owe. Amandi, that is the Twin City. Amandi has gone off not because of the debt we owe, but it is because for Amandi, they are undertaking their annual maintenance, which is usually done in November. So we met with them, tried to negotiate for them to take it back. But the explanation is that, no, if they take it further, they will lose that insurance cover for their machines. So if anything happens within the period, they will not have that guarantee for their machines.
Is that the truth? Because what you are talking about is something they just did recently, right?
Yes.
How many times are they supposed to do this in a year?
It is, they do it on the plan that we have with them, and then the transmitter, it is supposed to be in November.
Okay.
The annual plan is done in November.
Okay. ASCA is doing only ASCA is doing only 13 megawatts, right?
ASCA, no. If you allow me to give the
Okay, I was just asking these statistics before you make your points. about the fact that it's not only T3, it's not only Amandi, it's not only Sonon Asogli. I'm talking about those who have gone off. Then car power has significantly reduced. We understand that Siemens, Senate significantly reduced, and then ASCA to, reduce doing 13 megawatts.
The statistics are factually not correct.
Okay, help us.
Yeah, I'm going to give you the figures as of today. For the, like I was talking about, I have Sonia Sobri of, which is not a secret, everybody is aware. Sonia Sobri has gone off because of death. But the good news of Sonia Sobri is that they are going to be back in the coming weeks because we are almost resolved the issue that made them go off. Almost. We started paying them. Then we are also having a plan of how we'll be paying on weekly basis. This time not monthly, on weekly basis. That has been, I've had that conversation with them. And to show good faith, we started paying to show that it is not just that we are talking, but we are acting on what we have agreed going forward.
I see.
Now, back to
hold on briefly. When did you start paying to Sonon Asogli?
Sonia Asogli, when they shut off on the 8th. They shut off on the 8th of the previous month.
October.
We paid that week. Yes, we paid that week. Then the following week we paid. But because the payment was not sufficient, they decided they are not coming back.
Okay.
Then I halted the payment because I thought that if people are generating and giving, and if I don't pay those generating who are still generating, then it will be unfair for me to collect the money from the sales that I make from the energy they sell to pay Asogli. So I went off.
But you already owe them. You already owe them. You owe them a debt. So you cannot say since they have gone off and they are not generating you won't pay them.
No, the reason is, let me come in. You know, the money we collect per month is only able to pay everybody full. So if I knew that we owe at the time, and if somebody is producing even in the midst of the debt, I mean, in business, it makes business sense that I continue to have that faith and pay the one who is currently producing. But what we agreed with Sobri, after I had a conversation with them, one-on-one, was that, okay, I'm going to resume paying. And I paid them even yesterday. To show that I'm back in paying them yesterday. I made payment.
So the debt amount of 259 million US dollars, how much of it have you been able to clear as we speak? And that is exclusive exclusive of fuel.
Yeah, fuel is different. Fuel is different. We don't manage the fuel. It's the energy Ministry of Energy that manages the fuel. So fuel is different. But I'm talking about energy that we have bought, kilowatt hour.
Okay, but do you think how tenable is it that they have their debt grown by 23% on the net balance between January 2024 and September 2024, and only 22.6% of the invoices for the period have been honored by ECG from the cash waterfall mechanism. 23% and only 22.6% has been honored so far.
Yes, it's the truth is that majority of this debt is as a result of forex shortfall. Each month, forex alone will lose about 37 million on monthly basis. So if you get the money and you pay, getting the dollar becomes a problem. Sometimes you even make payment like what I paid yesterday. It will take sometimes days, weeks before they get it because of the dollar. If it were to be serious, I have paid. I would just say I paid the money. But when you pay, now you have to, the banks will have to get the dollar to convert before they pay. And by the time they convert, if the dollar increases, then it means that you will still have further shortfall. So with the payment, we are doing the best we can to pay. And we have an agreement with them now, how it's going to be paid. ECG will be paying part, ministry will come in. Also, and they have had that conversation. Just yesterday in the evening, they sent me a message that they have agreed with the ministry on their portion. So if the ministry takes it up, then they will resume. And I spoke to the ministry, and the ministry has also agreed. So the coming days, Sonia Asebi will be back. Not with the coming days.
But
you talk about us.
Yes, go ahead. Okay, let's talk about. Okay, you have already explained. I wanted you to do it this way, but you have already explained why Amandi is also off. You say that one is not due to debt, but because of some maintenance that they have to do. Okay, so go ahead with ASCA and Car Power, why they have also reduced, and Senate as well.
Good. Senate is running as I speak with you now. Senate is running. That is the facts. It's running now.
Okay.
Yeah. ACTA is doing over 100 megawatts continuously. AXA is doing over 100 megawatts continuously.
How many megawatts would they have been doing normally?
Oh, they do that. It's around that same figure. Sometimes 120, sometimes 100. But continuously, we are getting 100 megawatts, which is good.
So as far as you are concerned, they have not reduced significantly the power that they need to supply?
No, please. For AXA, no.
And then Car Power too?
Yes, Car Power is off not because of any other reason, but for a problem they have on their valve. There is at the Car Power ship, the issue is this: they have a challenge with their plant, that is the pressure control valve. They have a problem with that pressure control valve at the Takoradi SRMS. But the good news is that they have flown the experts now. The experts are down now to fix that. And it is my hope that within the weekend, if they are able to fix, Car Power ship should be good and back. So it is not for any other reason, but the reason that the pressure control valve is faulty, and that is why they brought an expert to fix it. That's the issue with the Car Power ship.
You were saying Car Power does what? They have an installed capacity of 470 megawatts, right?
Car Power is 450.
450 instead of 470. Okay.
Yes, please.
And
that's their capacity.
Yes, and normally they supply about how much?
No, around the same figure.
Around the same figure.
They are when they were running fully, they were giving us around the same figure.
And as we speak, they are giving you how much?
Well, now they are giving only 54 because of the 50. We are contracted. You see, our contract with Car Power is to give us 450. Okay, and they give when nothing was wrong.
And now they are giving you 54.
They were doing that. Yeah, 54 because of the valve that needs to be fixed.
Not because of the debt. Not because of debt.
No. Please no.
And Send Power gives you 360. That's their installed capacity. How much were they giving you?
Send Power, as I speak now, like I said, they are running fully. I don't have the figure immediately. I'll check as we progress.
Okay. All right.
Just log on and get it.
Right. But so clearly the power situation that people are facing, and certain parts in the Ashanti region, it's really bad. It's an epileptic fit that they are suffering. They just don't have it. Every other minute, their power is going off, and so on. Why don't you have a sort of a proper schedule so that they can manage their lives?
Yes. This issue keeps coming. The reason we are unable to do a full-scale schedule for them to follow is that the shortage is not consistent. As I speak with you now, right now, as we sit here, there is no shedding because today, off-peak, we don't have any shortfall, not even zero. We are good. Everybody is having supply. So as we progress getting to the peak, we'll get the figures for the peak. Then we'll be able to know the quantity we have and how to share it. But specifically with Ashanti region. If we go specifically with Ashanti region, yesterday, the total load we shared was just about 130. That is nationwide. Not only Ashanti, nationwide. And we distributed them according to the regions, specific regions. Ashanti was part, Greater Accra, all the regions. Ashanti had, I think, about 20-30 megawatts. I think it's about 25 or so. I'll get it right figure. So it is not that Ashanti keeps going, but the problem with Ashanti is that to get that quantum, that about 20 or 25 megawatts to share. Normally, if in the cities, that suffered most because that is where you can easily get that quantum. Okay. If you take it to the rural areas, then it will have to put virtually everybody up, and that is unfair.
The assurance you are giving is that, Mr. Samoa, the assurance you are giving is that the feared shutdown, at least by 3 of the key, IPPs, will not happen.
It will not.
Because you are paying.
It will not happen. Yes, and you see, the schedule was to pay monthly. When I took office, I decided to do it weekly because I realized that if I do it weekly, it makes it easy to meet a target. So for the month of last month, for example, that is the month of October, we were able to meet the cutoff for figure that we were supposed to pay. We paid. Because on the weekly basis, we are tracking how much we are earning, how much must go to cash water for, so that we can pay our IPPs. So now instead of monthly waiting at the end of the month, now they're receiving weekly payment. And that is the plan I have with them. I didn't sit down to do alone. I called them for a meeting on an engagement, and we agreed that weekly be better, and we are doing that.
Okay, so
they are not going.
So tell us, which plants are giving us the power we are using now?
Like I said, all the power plants are available except Sony and Sogri. Then the Amandi and his friend Eli Power, they are doing the maintenance. Power ship is also out because of the valve, which is being fixed. So these 3 are the plants that at the moment are not. All the other plants are working.
Okay, please hold on for me. And thank you very much for the assurance that you are giving. Now let's try and test the assurance that he's giving us, whether or not it's workable. I think I should begin with you, Bauer. Then I'll come to the guys who have been deep in the process. Yes.
Yeah, so thank you very much. And then good morning to Engineer Samoa. Congratulations in your elevation to acting MD.
Thank you.
Let me first start by stating that I can understand the challenges that Engineer Samoa is going through. Sometimes you must be very careful in your utterances and what you say, and you must portray hope when you are speaking on behalf of a very important entity like ECG. So I can understand where he's coming from. There's a basic, and I believe all of us agree on that, so that is not it's something that we should contest. The issue of the level of debt. That as we speak now, if you take out even the PPA-related costs, like he himself has mentioned, forex losses, because that's a liability that is put on the state. If you take out interest on default payments, you take out those things. These are all PPA-related costs. If you take that even out, they still have to cough out roughly around 1.6 billion in terms of their, and I'm not saying cedis, dollars, in terms of the debt levels that they have to these.
Roughly 1.6
billion. That
really?
Yes.
Every month.
Yes. So that is...
Sorry, every
month.
So that is the challenge that they have. Now, fast forward. And ECG simply cannot even raise the money to pay them. Because if you look at the amount they collect, and then you look at the players they have to make, it becomes a challenge. I'll give you a typical example. So, a very good day, like a figure of, let's say, 20, I was just looking through their documents with PURC's analysis. So, for example, you take March. In March of 2023, because I don't have the figures of the 2023, they were supposed to be, the expected revenue they were supposed to collect based on the tariff that had been approved was around 1.6 billion Ghana cedis. The actual that they collected was around 394 million. So a shortfall of about 76%. So basically, you have a situation where you cannot be doing those payments. 2, you have a situation where, you see, when you are dealing with IPPs, and I'm telling you because I know that you were pushing, based on your own research, in terms of production research, you were pushing some figures that you also have against the answers he was giving. So for example, can he explain why you have an installed capacity of ASCA being 370 megawatts? Let's even say based on their efficiency and other things. They should be doing in the neighborhood of about 300 megawatts. Let's even say 300 megawatts. How come they are running around 100 megawatts? There should be a reason for it. And the reason cannot just be because, and all of us know, they're part of the reason, and I remember, I think a few weeks ago, myself and Ben were even discussing some of these issues. Issues of, for example, they can't even procure fuel to even run HFO, to even run, what do you call it, the ASCA plant. And so a situational report on the plants that were available, ECG may not be in the best position to give. People would have given a better job on that because they are the managers of the system. But you see, it doesn't just go on just that. Beyond just the fact that these people are not being paid and therefore they are gradually shutting down. You know, some of the IPPs, they always tell themselves that, look, I'm not being paid, but as long as I generate, I can also just keep the plant sitting down. As long as I generate, I know that it's debt that will be paid at one point or the other for me to be able to pay my investors and what have you. So let me generate. The reason why we have gotten to where we have gotten to is by virtue of the fact that they just cannot even meet the operational cost. They have to, there are a lot of, they have to pay workers. They have to buy a few, their variable cost. They can't even meet it. And so because they cannot meet it, they are forced to do something like what for example, the OCTP partners did. You know, the OCTP partners also were owed roughly around $200 million plus. They also decided in an attempt to discuss issues with government not listening, they decided to reduce the flows of gas that were coming. They reduced it from around 245, am I right? 245 million scarf to about 171 million scarf. That's just a contractual agreement with JNPC. So basically, it is about debt, it's about debt, and the under recoveries. I think ASEP did some work on their under recoveries that talks about roughly under recovery going to a total of about 13.6 billion thereabout. So The issue is about debt. Government does not have the money. And because government does not have the... And the government has also spent so long in the negotiations of even the accumulated debt that has been there. You know, the agreement they came with the IPPs was that, look, we know you cannot even pay us, or when we invoice you, you cannot pay. Because if you talk to the Chamber of Independent Power Producers, they say for the whole of this year, the invoiced, the invoices that were given to ECG, they've paid less than 30%. It's about 22% of the invoices they've given. I'm talking about the chamber as a whole. So already they cannot actually meet those particular requirements. However, the agreement was that whatever the situation, that's why he says that they've moved from monthly to daily payment. Weekly payment. That, look, let's agree that for every month, make sure you raise about $47 million for us to pay our partners, the players in the upstream.
This is what was agreed with Dubik.
And yeah. So let's do that. And then, whilst they do those things, they also agree. You see, in all these things that we are doing, the unfortunate part of it is that the state-owned generators are also suffering. But because they are state-owned, nobody's talking about them. Because the agreement was that you get the $47 million to pay these IPP players, who are, if you look at the cash waterfall mechanism, they fall under what they call the category A players. So you pay those ones. And that the state will look for roughly around $200 million to pay off the state-owned ones, because there will always be a shortfall. Now that $47 million was not also even coming. You see, so I don't know what magic that engineer Samoa has suddenly done, to the extent that now he can even just raise the money and now be doing those daily payments. One of the weekly payments. One of the things I expected to hear him say, because you asked a very simple, a very categorical question. You asked him, you said, look, take Asogli. They have indicated that you owe them $259 million. How much have you paid? Because he had indicated that as of even yesterday, he had paid. Yeah. So this is a figure you should know. Because if you recall, when the finance minister said that he had advanced $30 million to Asogli to me, Asogli came out and said that they had not received that $30 million.
That's right.
And since then, we have not had any information to contradict that. And so I would have loved to see how much he's, how much he's dealing with it. So the issue is about that.
I'm sure he's getting the figure ready so that when I get back to him next, he will be able to give us that figure. But you like the assurance you are receiving that the potential, blackout that we're going to go into from next week will not happen?
No. You see, again, I'm very careful when I'm dealing with technocrats. I've had the experience of working with them for over a decade. And so I know some of the problems go beyond them. And so I am always very charitable towards them. But I don't take it. You see, take, for example, LA Power. Ask Mr. Samoa. Since LA Power started producing, they just came, they are the new babies on the kid. Whether they have paid them. For the energy that they have been supplying to them. Ask them whether they have been paid. So most of these people, they are very gradual protest. Because usually with maintenance thing, it's also negotiated with the off-taker. Because you usually will find a way of scheduling in such a way that you don't create problem for the off-taker. Because the off-taker has consumed what the customer he has to deal with. You can't have suddenly all these plants all talking about the fact that they are going on regular maintenance schedules. They are going to do that. And all of them are doing it at the same time. Usually you have a situation where the off-taker, and for that matter, the system operator will negotiate with you and say, look, we know that you are going to go on maintenance. Can you schedule your thing at this period so that at the time you will be going off, this plant will be coming on. And at the time, so that at least there's always a schedule on that. Suddenly you have Car Power dealing with it, you have LA Power dealing with it, you have ASCA giving you LOPA, and you do not see that these are all issues that are telling you that they feel shy, but they say, I don't want to give you power.
Instead of saying I'm going to shut down, I'll say I'm going to do maintenance.
So these are the issues.
Interesting. But let me come to Ben. I'll speak to Ben briefly and then I'll take a break and return. Now, you have been here and you have said this over and again. What is happening is not sustainable. Are we getting to a point where it's getting out of hand?
I think it got out of hand long ago. The power situation got out of hand long ago. But because you are dealing with government, and government is interested in paying the bills, even when they are not supposed to. And that's why we see the light on to some extent. But without government, sacrificing development to pay for electricity bills, I mean, there will be no power in Ghana. And that is the fundamental truth. And we keep saying that government doesn't need to be paying electricity bills. Government doesn't need to spend money that should be taking kids out of, under trees. I mean, in many communities, you are dead once you get certain diseases, because even access to hospitals is a challenge. And we are sacrificing that to do the optics, keeping the light on and spending it. But when you even break that down, I mean, we spend over 25, 30 minutes talking about things that we shouldn't spend airtime on, right? You've been asking questions about which plant is running, what megawatt are they producing. We are 10 years backwards on that information. 2015, 2016, it was a dashboard online. You log in live, you can see which power plant is running. You don't need to ask ECG boss what plant is running for us to do politics around it. Today, people, engineers working in Greco don't have the information you want from the ECG boss. Because politically, everybody is being gagged not to provide data so that there can be visibility on what is happening in the power sector. And that's how terrible the system has gotten. And if we continue to manage this power sector this way, it gets out of the hands of government. It gets even deeper and bigger to address. And I mean, all of us agree, and Engineer Samuel, congratulations to him. I'm sure we met briefly, but I haven't had the opportunity to do this. We know what the problem is. He mentioned that they are not collecting enough. Why are they not collecting enough? That is one part of the problem. You are not collecting enough, but they are also grossly inefficient with what they collect. And we'll be highlighting this. And I challenge anybody, if you go to ECG and you diagnose their contracting, the expenditures, there is not a single item ECG procures that is not 2 to 3 times more expensive than the shelf price.
Yeah. That's serious.
Is that clear? There is nothing, I dare say this. There is nothing that ECG, whether it's service, it's an item, an engineering tool, whatever they procure, there is nothing they procure that is not 2 to 3 times more expensive than the shelf price. If you spend our money this way, you cannot pay IPPs. You cannot pay the transmission companies. You cannot pay the other suppliers in the system. And that is what is happening. And they keep saying that they need money for themselves. To do what? To overspend. To do shady contracting. To pay more for what you are purchasing. And that's what they've been doing. I mean, I know we've been harping on the collection issues. ECG came up with a grand excuse that they need to digitalize. They need to move their system from a platform that they were using. That was a digital platform, for God's sake. We were running an app that people can pay on, an app that people can pay power on. And as if everybody has forgotten that the ECG even had an app before what we are talking about today. They have an app. So even if you want somebody visa to integrate, all you need is to get an engineer who can configure that and get us to pay, sitting at home, pay with our cards, pay with Momo. The systems are there. MTN is there. Telecel is there. You are integrating their system into yours. It's not magical. But they came up with this grand scheme that nothing has happened before. Let's re-engineer a whole contracting scheme and give it to another company to do it. And they're spending so much money on that contract, paid over 170 million for an app that was developed to do the same integration that could have been done by ECG engineers. And the worst part, when the company that doesn't own the meters, they don't own the transmission lines, they don't own any hardware that ECG has. When they collect the money through the app, which is controlled, I mean, the payment systems, Visa, Momo, all those platforms are not owned by the app developer. But the money goes into the account of the app developer. And then when the money goes into the account of the app developer, he takes 0.95%. Do you know what that means? That's over 10 million cedis every month. And then the app developer tells you that transfer the money from my account to ECG account. It doesn't even need to go to the app developer accounts in the first place. To transfer the money from my account to your account is going to cost 0.85%. That's over 8 million cedis a month. That is how ECG is spending our money. All right? So when IPPs cry that they don't have money, but they have the money to pay this kind of uselessness, you're not going to get the power sector sustainable. They are not collecting enough, but they are also incredibly abusing what is collected.
What can you see in the coming weeks as we heard of all of these, about all these going off, and now the ECG boss telling us that, well, all is okay, we are moving on. Nothing is going to happen.
No, I mean, from my experience and what I've seen in this space, unless it is engineering problem and it is not possible to generate, IPPs generally will not shut down. You know why? Because if there is gas to generate, you are better being owed than shutting down. Because when you shut down, you don't get paid. And that is how we played it over time. So they will generate, we'll pile the debt, and then we'll keep moving on. It's only Asogli that has shut down because they don't have the kind of contract that Car Power, Sen Power, who have guarantees. Sen Power is not, Car Power is not shutting down because they went for their LCs, about $112 million. They went to take it because you are not paying them.
Okay, so I'll take
so they will keep generating as long as there's fuel.
I'll take a break at this point. I'll return. Of course, I've not forgotten that Nana Amoesi, the 7th Executive Director, Institute for Energy Security, IES, is also on the line with us. But I'm hearing a lot of things that's just completely shattering, some good information I heard. We, people in the what do you call it? Civil society had a meeting with Dr. Bawumia in the course of the week. We had a meeting with him under Chatham House rules. And the things I learned about ECG are just being shattered right now. As far as their revenue is concerned, even in comparative terms with giants like MTN. We'll be right back. You're welcome back. This is Newsfile. It's your most authoritative news analysis platform. And here on Newsfile, we put Ghana first. It's brought to you by the Canada sponsorship of Bank of Africa, strongest group and closest partner, MTN everywhere you go. Chelsea University, educating ethical and entrepreneurial leaders for Africa. Robert & Sons Optical Services, your comprehensive eye care service provider for 33 plus years. My Way. Dial *165# on MTN to join My Way today. DPS International, where every child shines. Flamingo Paints, simply superior. Syntex Tanks, it's strong, it's tough. Activa International Insurance, our clients, our passion. And My Outfits by Konati Clothing. You can find them at Adenta Shopping Center, Adenta Down. Call 0244 676732, 676732. And Konati Clothing, between now and Christmas, is running a discount offer. They are giving you up to 10 to 15% on any thing that you request from them. Thank you. Now, let me now go to Nana Amoesi, the 7th. Having listened to, Engineer David Asamoah and everybody else here around the table, what do you have to say? That we have sufficient assurance, this is sustainable, we won't get into Dumsor?
Viewers, well, my preliminary statement is that it's been 7+ years of wasted resources and opportunities. And we've come back so much that it will take us, heavy investment and some substantial years to return to where we were, at least in early 2017. The assurances that have been given by the boss of ECG is not something that you can rely on. And for us, we believe that with the opportunities, the resources trusted on the new government or the government, the current government in 2017, we should not be seeing Dumsor at all, because we had a very high installed capacity, a very respectable, dependable capacity in excess of 4,300, even when our peak demand in 2017 was less than 2,400 megawatts. We had migrated from our reliance on liquid fuel importation to domestic gas, largely domestic gas, which was cheaper and more reliable than that of imported liquid fuels and imported natural gas. We had ESLA, that was giving us some money to clear legacy debts of close to 2.7 billion in early 2017, and also give us some free cash flow. We had profitable companies like the ECG, where losses, both technical and commercial, was below 23%. We also had a cash waterfall system that was operational and effective, just to name a few. Today, even though we have a dependable capacity in excess of 5,100 megawatts, we are struggling to produce, power in excess of 3,100 megawatts. Samson, you were talking to Mr. Samuel, and he said that yesterday the load they shared was just around 130 megawatts. I would love you to ask him what was our average peak load as of yesterday, so that we look at our own data and check if it's the case. And let me quickly put in here, government is suppressing information in the energy sector. Ben did mention that some years ago, data on power generated and transmission, well, you could find that online, the Greco system, it was shut down, and they sought to generate from a command center for, some key people or stakeholders in the industry. Today, and let me say from yesterday, the ordinary data sheet that is generated from Greco has now been labeled private and confidential for the first time. Private and confidential. And also, they are taking away the amount of power that is being exported. It means that you are blinded in the sector. What do you have to hide? Samson, we believe that government have not been, efficient and effective in the opportunities and the resources that it was entrusted to it.
Right.
That's what we find out here.
So, Ben, when I listen to you, when I listen across, I'm forced to say electricity or power supply or energy supply is becoming synonymous with corruption.
Yeah, equal to corruption. I think I wouldn't debate you on that. If you look at
how do we avoid being plunged? Of course, as we do, many people are sending messages, they are in darkness. So how do we avoid being plunged into darkness, at least so that we can enjoy our Christmas?
I think we have to go back to the table and, manage the energy sector as a system. We've been arguing for this for so long. For you to have all your power plants doing below capacity and justifying each of them tells you that we are not planning well enough. And that is what is happening. Now, gas supply is also a problem. Valve to supply gas to a power plant that can give us about 470 megawatts is a problem.
Gas supply from the West African gas pipeline.
Yeah, so, Engineer, someone mentioned the valve issue. So it's not Car Power that has a problem.
Okay.
It's a problem to push gas to them. So the valve has a problem. They can't receive enough gas. So
we owe them like how much?
50. I'm not sure how much, in the region of 300 million.
WAPCO?
You are talking, you see, we have the transporters, or transmitters, and that will be WAPCO. And you have those who really supply you the gas itself. And that one roughly is around, if you just take just the OCTP alone, it's roughly around between $250 million.
Now, the debt, we can't even consolidate them here because they are scattered all over the place. So, Car Power, over $300 million is owed. For gas, ENI, over 200 million as well. But beyond that also, they have also drawn down on LC, which is over $400 million, which all have to be paid for. And all the power plants, they don't get their money. So, we need to plan it as a system and address the problems so that we don't compound it. But every day we are compounding the problem with inefficient decisions.
Right.
And that's what is troubling.
So David, I hear Ben make, the very basic argument. How do you sell power and make loss? It's a commodity, everybody wants it. What's going on? Hello, David.
Yeah.
Right, so you have listened to my panelists so far. What do you say? We have just about a minute to close the show.
Okay. Before I move on, let me correct something. The early power is not, because the new one we commissioned, just this week, is giving us 200 megawatts and it's in operation. So early power is back on supply.
Yes, pay them.
And then the AXA, you asked me what is the total. The total was 336. The 136 is on gas, and that one is used during the off-peak, during the day. Then at night, when we get to the peak, they come in with 200 megawatt that use the HFO. So AXA is also giving full capacity of 336. So these are the two corrections I want to make. Now, going forward, you asked if electricity is a commodity, how can we sell a commodity like electricity and run at a loss? Yes, we should not lose sight of the fact that our tariff is in Ghana cedis. And then we bill or we buy the power in dollars. So to match the two, then what it means is that the tariff must be able to cater for that conversion. And though we are having quarterly tariff adjustment, it doesn't cover all. Okay. So from the onset,
I'm very sorry, but we have run out of time. And as I spoke about WAPCO, you know, they issued a statement yesterday announcing that they were going to go on a planned pipeline cleaning and inspection. So a whole lot of things. Thank you, gentlemen, very much for joining us on Newsfile. And okay, I'm getting a lot of messages. I can't read any of them. I'm sorry about that. Engineer David Asamoah is the acting managing director, Electricity Company of Ghana. Ben Boache, right here, is executive director, ASEP. Nana Amoesi, the 7th, is executive director, IES, and Edward Abambiri Bawa is MP Bongo and co-spokesperson on energy for the NDC's manifesto. Thank you. Have a good afternoon.